It's me again. Yes, I've still got the Tash. Now, I know I've not posted up any LGBTQ recommendations for a while, any readings of my work for a while, but I took a little bit of a step back for some mental health self-care. That's not something to apologise for, because you shouldn't ever have to feel the need to apologise for self-care, but I'm back, complete with Tash, which is staying because I love it, and also for what better way to mark the beginning of the upload of the multiple videos I've got, which I'll be doing in equal measures. There's some recommendations to go up, there's some readings to go up, there's loads of just random silliness to go up. So I will do that at some point as well. I thought, what better way to begin that than by reading from part 3 of the My Dearest trilogy. Now, I don't know if I will go back to the My Dearest world after this one, because it ties everything up nicely, but I do still feel that there are some stories to tell with the characters, so chances are I probably will. With that in mind, I'm going to read you an excerpt from this. It does contain a couple of little spoilers, and as with most of my books, it does have some bad language. I know, naughty me. And I hope you enjoy it. And if you do want to take a look at the whole trilogy, it's available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle version. It's available on PDF form in Etsy as well. However, as I was saying in my posts, if you want to try the trilogy out but don't have the money to do so, or the means to do so, then just hit me up in the comments or on any of my social media, like my author page on Facebook, or my profile on Twitter, or on Instagram, anywhere like that. They're always the same name, Patrick Scattergood Author. I'm easy to find, believe me. Just follow the trail of transphobes and homophobes, and I'll be there being the one getting insults thrown at me. But just drop a line and I would be happy to send you the PDFs of the books. With that in mind, let's get started. Now, this part involves Trent and Mother, who is also known as Kybell. Trent walked slowly, his hand absent-mindedly rubbing the stump where his left hand used to be. Even with Mother, his linking partner, walking next to him, the incubus looked distracted. Mother looked him up and down and wondered where his mind had gone. It was as if two versions of Trent were fighting one another for dominance, and she hated it. The man walking next to her seemed at odds with even the simplest of faults. The tree has come for you and I. It came when it was time for fate to die, reaching up to heavenly touch, searching for fear, anger, and such. Trent repeated the words from a centuries-old nursery rhyme, and it made her shiver. There was something in his voice, something that made her feel like ice-cold hands were running up the length of her spine. Brought forth by magical demand, the tree takes on the forms of the damned. A tree with rings of blood, those below best prepare for a flood. Mother glanced over at Trent. There was a serious expression on his face, making it look like reciting the words was a very serious business. Do you have to do that, Trent? He smiled slightly, but kept looking ahead of himself as he walked. No, but I find it keeps my mind at peace if I tell myself the things that I can remember. And the things you cannot? What happened to those? I forgot them, he said with a sly chuckle. As soon as the flash of the old Trent of his trademark wit and sarcasm appeared, he was gone again. It was disorienting to see a man effortlessly flitting between two distinct personalities. She could see the strain it was placing on his mind, but there was nothing she could do. Try as she might, she couldn't break through into his thoughts. Wading through centuries of lies, waiting as the roots choose who dies. Watch out for when it takes your eyes. You will become food for the flies. More words from an old nursery rhyme, one that was in turn pulled from the bedtime stories children were told to get them to sleep soundly. Stories that were full to bursting with simple moral lessons, ones to teach the young to behave, or there would be a consequence far too big for them to comprehend. The streets were empty, but still littered with the rubbish left by protesters and the like. Do you know what I want? Taking his hand in her own, she raised it to her lips and kissed it gently. No, my love, what do you want? A coffee. A dark, bitter coffee, steaming hot, a shit ton of sugar, maybe even a pastry. I fucking love pastries. Excuse me? You want a coffee and a pastry? Trent laughed. Well, the tree bridges the gap between the worlds. It chooses who lives and who dies. It chooses who suffers and who feels the pleasure of the world around them. What better time to have a treat? Mother let go of Trent's hand and stopped walking. Rubbing her hands together, she felt frustrated with how little Trent was taking all this seriously. She wanted to slap him, shake him, anything to get him to pay attention. The gods wouldn't just punish those without magic. Everyone was in the firing line, and with their history, they weren't exactly innocent either. Seeing as it's you, how about I treat you to one too? Oh gee, you're so generous. How very kind of you. Although, don't you think that we should pay more attention to the fact that the tree is pushing itself into our world? Perhaps that is more important than cheap coffee and pastries. Who says they have to be cheap? I know a place or two. In spite of her growing annoyance at his attitude, she couldn't help but smile. These flashes of the old Trent, the ones she linked to, were reminding her of why they were together in the first place. Oh, I bet you do. Trent swore and held his left arm against his chest tightly. A wave of pain shot through where his hand used to be. This is wrong. I hate it. This is wrong. I hate it, he repeated over and over again. Concerned, Mother turned and stood in front of him, her hands on his shoulders. Before she could say anything to comfort him, he pushed her away and fell to his knees, his arms outstretched as if praying in their church. Mother winced in discomfort as a force behind her legs forced her to kneel next to Trent. Around them the street had started to crack, the patterns reminding them of a spiderweb or a snowflake, each unique in its own way. As they both watched, the cracks started to come together to form letters in the concrete, slowly as if drawn to Mother and Trent. At first, they were just out of reaching distance, despite their best efforts to touch them. There was an electric feeling in the air, and the closer the cracks came, the stronger it felt. The hairs on their arms and the back of their necks stood up, and their skin began to tingle like a million mini shocks were coursing through their bodies. Trent stayed completely still as if in a deep, set trance, a serene expression on his face. Mother struggled at first, but when the force holding her in place became too much to bear, she gave in to it. Mother could feel the familiar pull in Naz's mind. She wanted more than anything to escape there, to somewhere she knew only too well, but it wasn't that easy anymore. The last time she was there, someone had forced her out. The cracks had become wider and closer to her. Trent hadn't moved an inch as he knelt praying. She couldn't remember the last time she had seen him pray. Mother wasn't even sure there was anyone up there to pray to anymore. Would they even be listening if there were? A smile appeared once more on Trent's face, and he relaxed his whole body, leaning forward to get a look at the words appearing in the cracks. Mother felt the pressure on her body relinquish, and her muscles started to ache. Trent, Iasian, can you hear me, my love? Trent paid her no heed. He was still leaning forward and tracing the letters with the tips of his fingers. A quiet humming came from him as he soothed himself. He turned to face her awkwardly. The emotionless smile was still on his face. Kybel, our fates have been chosen for us. We are summoned to the tree for it to be set in motion. Trent stood with his head held high and his hand held out to her. Come, I have you and you have me. Together, we will see what the fate has in store for us. Now, my apologies for stumbling over that a little bit, but I've never been that good at reading out loud. But hopefully, you like that excerpt. And like I said earlier, the whole My Dearest trilogy is available from Amazon in both paperback and Kindle form. It's available from Etsy in PDF form. And also, like I said before, and this offer is always ongoing. It's not a limited time offer or anything like that. But if you don't have the means or the money or the ability to buy the books, and not just My Dearest, any of my books from those sites I mentioned, just drop me a message on my social media or a comment under this video, and I would be more than happy to email you over the PDF copies of them. Now, with that in mind, have a wonderful day, live your best life, and try and live your best life through one simple rule. Don't be a dick. And also, remember one thing for me, and if you are a visitor to my blog or my posts, you'll know what this is going to be. Trans lives matter. And trans rights are human rights. They're not pie. People don't lose rights if the LGBTQ community get their own rights. It's not a pie. Although now, I really want some pie. So I'm going to fuck off and get some pie. See you soon. Love you all.